Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to chapel today. I am pleased to welcome three speakers today. Mr. McGoldrick, who will be speaking on behalf of the mentors, Emilio Antor, and James Chun will be speaking for the brothers. I'm also wanting to thank the Cardigan Glee Club and Mrs. Perricone, who are sharing their gifts of music today. Our thanks to all of these leaders for their careful preparation and their practice to get ready for today's service. Now this week, we will focus on the theme of patience, which is pretty good because you've already had your first test, being patient with us as we fumbled the ball a little bit. Mrs. Perricone has chosen for both the prelude, that's what we just heard, the music, and the postlude, that means the music that you'll hear at the conclusion of the service, music written by one of the most famous and the most patient composers of all times. So let's begin now with a little game of Name That Tune. Can anyone tell me the title of the prelude, or the composer, or both? And bonus points will be awarded to anyone who can tell me why this composer must have had a lot of patience to begin with. Jerry. Fur-Elise by Beethoven, very good. Do you know why he might have needed a lot of patience?
No, he's deaf.
Oh, close, blind, deaf. Is that what you were going to say, Jalen? Awesome, very good. Yes, guys, Beethoven. Beethoven suffered from a progressive hearing loss that got worse over time until finally he became completely deaf. Imagine being a composer of music and not being able to hear your music performed. A contemporary story, meaning a story told by people who were actually there at the time, tells us that Beethoven directed his famous Ninth Symphony. When he directed that for the first time, he directed an orchestra that he could not hear. We know this music. It's actually in our hymn book. It's known by different parts of that symphony are known by different titles. Ode to Joy or Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. Mrs. Perricone, could you play us just a couple of stanzas? Thank you. But when Beethoven performed this for the very first time with a full orchestra, to thunderous applause and 5 standing ovations, a fellow musician had to come tap him on the shoulder and turn him around so that he could see the audience applauding. Beethoven struggled with deafness and also with understandable depression. But he met these challenges with heroic patience. As we continue our heroes' journeys, we each have our own trials that can cause us to feel depressed, discouraged, sad, impatient, or all of these feelings. These trials are like cracks in an otherwise smooth surface. It's like we're going along smoothly until we hit a crack that trips us up and causes us to feel irritated or impatient or anxious. Have you ever been skating outside on a pond and you're going along just fine and then you hit a crack? Ouch. Cracks. So what are some of these trials? For some of us, I imagine, it might be waiting to hear back from secondary schools about whether or not you'll be offered admission. That's a crack, annoying anxiety that keeps us from smoothly focusing on the present moment. For others, a trial might be waiting for test results, a different crack. Some of us are struggling with illness or injuries and feeling impatient about the pace of their recovery. And others are grieving. They're mourning the loss of someone very dear to them. Some are coming to terms with bad news. All of us live in close quarters with one another, and all of us can get impatient and on each other's nerves, or impatient with ourselves for 1,000 different reasons. Cracks, thousands of them. These challenges require a great deal of patience, and being patient is hard work. but God's timing can be trusted. Things do change with time. And meanwhile, it's important to keep in mind that just because we can't see into somebody else's life, we can be sure that everyone is struggling with something. We can be patient with them. We can be patient and forgiving of ourselves. And we can always, always ask God for help. When people need help being patient and strong, many say a famous prayer, a prayer said every day in thousands, hundreds of different languages all over the world. And it's called the Serenity Prayer, so perhaps some of you know it. This prayer helps put ourselves and our individual struggles in proper perspective. Sometimes the best and the strongest thing we can do is to do nothing, to wait and trust, to be patient. Please join me now in quiet reflection as I pray the Serenity Prayer as it was written by American theologian Reinhold Niebuhr. God, give me grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed. Give me courage to change the things that should be changed. And give me the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. And now please sit up straight. Take a nice deep breath through your nose. Roll your shoulders back until you feel a nice stretch, and slowly relax them into a calm and centered presence. Great. Together, let us welcome now Mr. McGoldrick.
Thank you, Dr. Perryman. Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. McCusker, faculty, and students. Well, here I am. This exact moment has been on my mind for some time now. How would I perform? Would I succeed? Am I going to be effective? Will they clap? Do I walk around? How red is my face? Is this really what my voice sounds like? Are they ready for this? Am I ready for this? All these questions have surrounded my thoughts since Dr. Perryman first asked me to speak, carving into my consciousness like a knife. This opportunity is grand, but so is the pressure. I'm sure many of you can relate to this feeling, the feeling of overwhelming pressure of the future, the unknown. Whether it be small-scale goals like getting homework done, getting a good grade on a test, and being on time, or larger goals such as getting into the right school, making other people happy, or even making yourself happy. Anxiety is a natural human response based on the apprehension or nervousness of future distress. So what's the point? Well, I've unlocked the secret. Wait for it. Wait for it. Patience. Patience. Okay, fine, fair. I didn't unlock any hidden door. I didn't open any treasure chest, slay any dragons, or save any princesses. Yet. What I have done and will do is give you some idea on what I think it means to be patient. How I've come to understand this unsung hero of our subconscious in the hopes to bring you all to thinking at some point, on the point, about what makes you feel easy and why this notion of patience is such a principal habit to calming the mind, the temple for our spirit. Ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle put it, patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. At Stanford University in the late 1960s, a psychologist by the name of Walter Mitchell conducted a study on the subject of patience and its evil twin brother, temptation. In this study, children were put in a room for 15 minutes with one single marshmallow. They were told, "Jimmy, I will go out and come back in 15 minutes. Now, if you don't eat this marshmallow before I come back, I'll give you a second marshmallow, all for yourself. If you go ahead and eat this marshmallow, there will be no second marshmallow for you when I come back." A hidden camera inside the room shows the temptation in the child's faces. They smell the marshmallow, some lick the marshmallow, some eat tiny pieces around the marshmallow, hoping nobody notices. In fact, two out of every three kids ate the marshmallow. After many years, the study proved to be effective and shows some pretty impactful results. The children who displayed patience, suppressing their innate want, not need, to eat the marshmallow that was in front of them, were shown to have better SAT scores, were less likely to be addicted to drugs and alcohol, and generally had higher incomes during adulthood. With the advent of the internet and the need for speed society that we live in today, there seems to be an emphasis put on short-term accomplishments. Long-term goals are often something we put on paper or not, tell people. Rarely are they the things that we set to achieve on a day-to-day basis. If I could, I want to perform a little study here with you guys. Let's just say that I were to have, in a month from now, I were to give every single one of you a snack. And you have the option between a chocolate bar or an apple. Chocolate bar and apple. I'm giving you one of those a month from now. By a show of hands, who would take the apple? Don't be shy. Okay. Good amount of you. Who would take the chocolate bar a month from now? Okay, fair. Okay, now, a game changer. Let's say I had these boxes somewhere hidden in the chapel, and I were to give you them right now. Who would take the apple now? Less of you, significantly. Who would take the chocolate bar now? Almost all of you. See, we as humans often make plans for the future that we don't follow. Have you ever said to yourself, okay, I'm going to start this new diet, or a new workout, or a new plan to get my homework done Monday. Inevitably, being that those Mondays never really come. Now, I'm not going to say that humans are naturally lazy. It's not the case. Humans do, however, have a biological condition for temptation. When we do something that is instantly gratifying, we get a quick endorphin burst that satisfies us temporarily, or at least until the next temptation comes. How can we, as individuals, suppress these temptations? However cleverly they are masked. I'd like to tell you about a very important and life-changing trip that I took almost 2 years ago today. I was fortunate enough to be invited by a close friend of mine to the beautiful island of Jamaica. My friends and I, Mr. Novak included, spent a week in a small village called Little Bay on the far western tip of the island. My friend Nick, his father, Dr. Allen, was an addiction specialist and did much of his work for nonprofit in the village and surrounding communities of Little Bay, Jamaica. Nick's father suddenly passed away, and Nick invited some of his closest friends, all from Camp Belknap, to go spend some time with the people his father had become so close with. Now, this isn't a story about the work or impact that Dr. Allen had on this community. Honestly, there really isn't much time for that, but I'd be more than happy to speak with any of you about that on a later time. Instead, this is about the people and the things I learned in that brief period of time we spent there. I know many of you have had similar experiences I have. The culture shock of being in a different country where the way of life is so foreign to you that you are left with no choice but to adapt. Now, the 5 of us were not in a regular touristy part of Jamaica. No Sandals Resort where couples are jumping into the ocean hand in hand while sipping tall drinks, listening to Jimmy Buffett's Cheeseburger in Paradise. Instead, we were with the people, learning and adapting as best as we could to their lifestyle, not them adhering to us. The biggest thing that I took from my time in Jamaica was how peaceful these people were, with such little material they had. No iPhones, no DirecTV, no laptops, iPad, Minecraft, anything like that. Instead, what these people were rich in was patience. I can remember getting to Dr. Allen's compound and wanting to do it all. The boys wanted to know where we were going and what we were going to be doing every second of every day. We soon learned that this was not going to be the way. Not because there wasn't a plan, but because there didn't need to be one. The Jamaican people are a people of spontaneity and live off of human emotion. They understand their long-term goals and put into practice short-term goals to achieve them. For instance, the man who was our leader was a man named Cudge. Cudge was born to be a fisherman, and that's what he did day in and day out, regardless of the weather, his attitude, or any other anxieties that came his way. He did this to feed his village. He had no other choice. Often, you could find us asking Cudge, "Hey Cudge, what's the plan for today?" Or "What time is it?" Or "Any way we could get?" Or "How about what are your thoughts if?" And every time, Cudge would respond with these same 2 things. One of them being, "No problem, man." Or my personal favorite, "Yes, man." When we would stop worrying about the logistics of the day, we would catch ourselves instinctively enjoying ourselves, much like the people of the village. Cudge would then come back to the property at an unknown time and pull us away on some epic adventure when we least expected it. I think I spent about 59 of 60 minutes, I was on duty last night, talking about whether or not we were going to have a ski holiday. My head nearly exploded. Now, I understand the issue at hand. Do I need to do my homework for tomorrow? Okay. However, think about how much of your day is consumed by the anxiety of short-term objectives or the concern of what is next. I challenge you all to practice the art of patience. Our lives are full and rich, and without patience, life can get overwhelming. Take the initiative to suppress your anxieties with thoughtful conversation or activity. I try to remember the people in the village of Little Bay, how much they have with how little they've got. Or is it how little they have with how much they've got? Choose your own positive perspective in life. It'll make all the difference. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. McCusker, members of faculty, and Cardigan brothers. Mr. McGoldrick did a great job introducing the subject of patience, so I won't spend much time explaining the concept. Instead, I want to share a personal story about patience. For my story to make sense to you, first of all, you need to know that I'm not really a sports guy. I'm not the greatest soccer player, even though I came from Mexico. I hardly play soccer there. But still, my first year in Cardigan, I tried out for soccer, expected to be placed on a team with my friends from Mexico. But after the trial week, I ended up in the third soccer team. When the news came out, I acted like I didn't care. I put on a mask and pretended it was all good. So on the outside, it looked like it was all fine. But on the inside, I was angry, impatient, and sad because most of my friends were on other teams and I could not even reach to them to tell them how disappointed I was. But there were two people that helped me get through the season and have a good time. They were Mr. Burritt and Mr. Cook. I remember Mr. Cook always asking me how our practice went every day. I did not have an answer because I was being impatient and thinking to myself over and over, when is this going to be over? My impatient mindset actually trapped me in a box where I couldn't see possibilities of having fun and getting to know each other and becoming a better soccer player. With such a mindset, I was very surprised to be chosen as the captain of the team. Mr. Burritt can tell you that at the beginning I did not speak at all. I cannot believe I was chosen as a captain when I knew so little about soccer. But that wasn't all. They also told me I would be playing defense, a position I've never played before. So I'm in a position that doesn't even get to score goals on the team, but instead to stay back and defend my team. I was mad at Mr. Burritt and Mr. Cook for putting me in a position that I did not want to play or know how to play. But as the season progressed, I could see the wisdom of their choices. At the end of the season, our team finished undefeated and we won the Cardigan Jamboree. After the season was over, I wish that I had not spent so much time angry and impatient, but instead had spent the season enjoying it and appreciated what a soccer season. When they told me the news that Mr. Cook would be leaving Cardigan, it made me even feel worse. So I told myself that I was going to change my attitude and put forth all my 9th grade year. The results of my change of attitude were really effective. This year, I finished on the varsity soccer team, and at the end of the season, we only had 2 losses, but we won the Eaglebrook tournament. I remember everything because I was patient, every little moment, like Chansky Navajas, or for June, we fight till the end. So boys, I want you to all listen carefully. I know that some of you want to get out of Cardigan as fast as they can, but please be aware of your attitude of impatience. By being impatient, please be aware that you may miss all the fun by being here. You may be impatient so it doesn't take part of making friends or making other relationships Cardigan has to offer. That's like my experience with soccer. I was so busy being impatient I almost missed a great season thinking what will happen next. Remember every little moment with teachers, students, and staff, because I guarantee you there are at least 30 people in this room that you will not see again. People that you care about and that you won't see next year. So be patient. Take 5 seconds to think. Do not try to rush through the days without not noticing what or who is around you. Are you likely to have amazing snow like this when you're home? Or are you ever going to live in a place when you're surrounded by 200 brothers? Will your teachers and coaches who care about you and help you as much as you when you leave the point? Make most of every day here so when it's all over, you don't have to look back and think, I wish I've done this. Or I hope I talked with everyone and made better friendships. Keep in mind that patience is the only way you have right now. And it's the only way to forget regretting of what you should do and what you did. Now that I'm the subject, thank you for being patient during this speech.
want to thank you and Mr. McGoldrick for sharing your thoughts on the topic of patience about how it relates to masculinity. There are many stereotypes of men that are related to patience, or more often, impatience. Oftentimes, many men are portrayed as being impatient and intimidating. But as we look more carefully, we find that patience is one of those qualities that mark a man of great character. That's because, more often than not, it takes more strength to be patient than to be intimidating. Let me tell you a story about one of our Cardigan brothers who was very patient back when I was a sixth grader here at Cardigan. His name was Will Appleton. I also want to tell you about a particularly obnoxious little sixth grader who drove Will Appleton crazy. His name was James Chun. Will was my dorm leader. He was an easygoing, happy guy who loved to joke around. Patience may not have been one of his natural skills, but he worked hard to improve that skill and to put it to good use. At this point, you may be thinking of how your own floor leader, or maybe how you yourself have developed patience by observing others and by practicing being patient over time. I learned a lot from watching Will 4 years ago, and I've been practicing being patient ever since. Will was always excited about whatever was happening around him. Even when a lot of people in our dorm, including me, failed room inspection numerous times, he was always patient about our behavior because he knew that we would eventually learn how to keep our rooms clean and be a good citizen in the dorm. Back then, I was one of the kids who just didn't do anything good. I was rather impulsive and loud. Our dorm was one of the biggest on campus, and there were 7 of us sixth graders. When we all got together, things could get crazy. Poor Will. We would jump on him, bother him, and not show much respect for his leadership. We even called him Crapple Chapel Apple Pie, but he never got mad at us. When I was a sixth grader, I took Will's incredible patience for granted. I just thought that patience was expected of a dorm leader and that Will was a naturally patient guy. But as time passed and I became an eighth grader, I realized for myself how hard it could be to deal patiently with younger kids who do not realize the kind of stress the older guys are under regarding secondary school applications and academics. I could see for myself how the noise and craziness that had been a big part of my first year here could really get on the nerves of my Cardigan brothers. As I began to be aware of this and considered how well Will had handled it all, I was determined to practice being patient with others myself. At first, I struggled a lot, but I just kept thinking positively, and before long, I started to get more comfortable with being patient. Eventually, patience developed into one of my characteristics. As Dr. Perriman says, sometimes you would have to fake it until you make it. By practicing being patient, I became more patient and tolerant of any irritating behavior. Because I have attended every grade here at Cardigan, I can understand how it feels to be a 6th, 7th, 8th, and a 9th grader here. That understanding has helped me to have empathy for other people's situations and to practice being patient. What I've learned is that being patient has paid off for me because when I show patience, others do the same for me. In conclusion, being a patient person takes time and conscious effort. I myself am still growing and working on that social skill, but Will Appleton was an inspirational person for me. He helped me grow and develop patience. I hope that by telling you my story today, we can all practice being tolerant and understanding of each other, both here on the point and at your home with our siblings and parents. There is a proverbial saying, patience is a virtue. I believe that it is also one of the most crucial characteristics of being a good man. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Very well spoken. At this time, we'll ask each of you to rise and join in the singing of the Cardigan hymn.
When
As we leave today, just a quick reminder, we're going to have our dorm photos taken, so keep in mind the map that you saw at the end of lunch and go to the places where you can meet your dorm. So as you leave today, remember, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Amen.